Well, of course, there's a daunting level of protection that comes with hosting the world's 20 most powerful leaders. And to discuss the security operation, I'm joined now by Neil Fergus. He's the CEO of consulting group Intelligent Risks, and Neil Fergus headed the Olympic Intelligence Centre for the Sydney Games. Neil Fergus, could this be one of Australia's largest security operations?
Absolutely. It's certainly bigger than a CHOGM. And the way that it's evolved, it'll be bigger than the APEC Leaders Week that we had in Sydney a few years ago.
And bigger than the Sydney Olympics, which of course were held before September the 11th.
No, not bigger than that. Although that's a sporting event, we had over 80 VVIPs, or heads of state, heads of governments, come. But this is much more concentrated as a political summit, and like APEC, it will resonate throughout the Brisbane CBD.
Give me an idea of what might actually be involved.
Unlike APEC, we have a series of meetings in the country during the year. Some of the other meetings, as you did in your intro, are held elsewhere. So the Finance Ministers' meeting, Central Bankers' meeting, won't be in Brisbane. But this is the culmination of the G20 with the leaders there. There will be a lockdown around the venue. There'll be a security lockdown around the accommodation, and there will be secure transport escorts between each of the venues, and the gathering, the photo moment, the excursion, etc. So it's pretty big.
This will involve not only Queensland Police but federal police, also our military as well.
Absolutely. Queensland Police, under our constitutional arrangements, will have the primacy for the security operation, but given that it is a national event sponsored by the Australian Government, there will be a close partnership, as there was with APEC Leaders Week, between Canberra and Brisbane in relation to the security op.
Now, of course, individual leaders have their own needs, and the one that we're sort of most conscious of course, is the US President, who travels with that formidable entourage. How do you balance competing security needs of individual leaders from different countries with the overall need to secure the event?
Requires enormous planning, a lot of liaison. DFAT obviously has a key role, but most of these leaders, of course, have been to Australia in recent years. Their security entourages have different demands, different requirements, different wants, but ultimately it's the Australian Government that has that responsibility under some international conventions. It will diplomatically dictate what will be possible and what will not be possible, but also, as you said, the US entourage, somewhere between 500 and 700 people. Then you've got the Russians, the Chinese, etc. So it's massive.
And of course, each of those individual security details, they all want to be armed, don't they? Will they all have permission to be armed?
No. It's something that the Australian Government, of course, doesn't want to have a public conversation about, but the standard which has been used previously is that the Australian Government says there will only be arms carried by the Australian policing personnel, in this case Queensland and the AFP, unless a special exemption is provided. That has happened in the past, for example with US presidential visits. The issue with the political summit is if you give an exemption to one country, then you're going to have others say, if it's good enough for them, why can't we have the same? So it's a very delicate diplomatic balancing act.
And of course, when we're talking about security, it's not just security in the sense of possible shootings, bombs, that sort of thing, but security in the sense of avoiding anything embarrassing, political protests, people brandishing particular signs and logos. How does that work?
Key point. A lot of the public and indeed the media think about it at the far end of the risk spectrum. Terrorism, reputational issues are of paramount importance. And you and many of your viewers will recall the brouhaha that erupted around the chasers and the APEC leaders meeting in Sydney a few years ago. Really quite damaging to the reputation of the hosts of the event and the policing for the event. And that's not the first time that thing has happened. And it isn't just about face or how you present. It also leads to the inevitable questions by the media and commentators. If somebody can get in that close for a protest or a stunt, then somebody with more devious intentions, more dire motivations could equally get in that close.
A final quick question. Would preparations already be well underway?
Have been in terms of the bid, which has been presented by the competing cities, and of course Brisbane and QPOL there has had an input. Planning will start in earnest after a task force is established that will manage the planning and delivery of the event.
All right, Neil Fergus, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Pleasure.